Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, and welcome to the 12th Dimension, where I am joined by Jessica Jones and Barry Littleton. So a quick intro for both of them. Jessica is a paranormal investigator, remote viewer based in Northwest Georgia. And Barry was born somewhat awake with fragmented past life memories and began having paranormal experiences at a very young age. So welcome both of you to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
No, anytime. So, yeah, do you know what? I don't even know where to start. Who wants to go first?
I vote Jessica.
Oh, me? You guys vote for me? All right.
Ladies first.
Yeah. Well, do you want me to introduce myself? Is that what we're doing here?
Oh, just what have you been up to lately? The last few things you've done, because I know you've done quite a bit of remote viewing. You did the Jersey Devil.
I've done a lot of remote viewing. Yes, and Barry helps me out with that. He's been tasking me with a bunch of targets, and we've been doing a bunch of shows together on a lot of these remote viewing targets. Yeah, I mean, I've been busy doing remote viewing, and I'm super busy doing my shows. I have 2 shows a week on my channel, The Cryptid Huntress, and then I have 2 shows at Spaced Out Radio every weekend. I'm a weekend host over there, so I in between that and all these conferences I'm speaking at, things, and all the Bigfooting, I'm a Bigfoot field researcher. So in my spare time, I try to get out into the woods and do cryptid hunting. I am the Cryptid Huntress, so I have to stay true to my calling. So so I'm doing that.
The name,
right. Yeah. Right. And I just added another conference to my list. I'm going to be speaking at the Dogman conference this year out in Texas. Yeah, here in the U.S. So if anybody's in the United States near Texas on Labor Day weekend over here, y'all come see me at the Paranormal Roundtable Dogman conference. So and a lot of that stems from these conferences I speak at, stems from not only the Bigfoot field research that I'm doing and that I've done over the past 12 years. It has a lot to do with the remote viewing and looking into cases of alleged animal attacks on people who a lot of us don't believe that, packs of wild dogs have killed some of these people with some of these cases that I remote view. And so it's really gotten the interest of a lot of people. looking into those things through remote viewing. And so yeah, it's getting to be a little more popular than it would have been a few years ago.
Yeah.
Talking about remote viewing.
Yeah. Do you want to? Sorry, before we went live, you were saying that you'd been out recently doing some Bigfoot investigating, and you said you're surrounded by Bigfoot. Can you
Oh, I
talk a little bit
was.
more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I took I took the opportunity since I was in the mountains up in North Georgia where I live. Speaking at the Georgia Bigfoot Conference last, I guess it was about 2 weekends ago, and I had a friend of mine, Robbie Rains. He's on a podcast called DAX Machina, and he met me up there for the conference, and I took him up into the mountains where I do some research, and we went scouting during the day, and after the meet and greet on Friday night, we decided to go back up to the mountain to just go observe and see if we could get some Bigfoot action,
Yeah.
And so we did, and we got up there, and I took him to a place where it never disappoints. There's always some sort of activity, from UFOs to, we've had portals opening up, we've had ETs, all sorts of strange things, a lot of Bigfoot activity, ghosts and all that. So I took him up there, and we kind of just walked up in this field, and we were sitting there for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And the crickets started chirping really, really loud.
Yeah.
It was so loud to the point to where it hurt my ears. It was so loud. And we were having to scream over each other. Like, we were yelling almost, not screaming, but we were speaking very loudly.
Yeah.
Because those crickets were so loud. And we were just talking and cutting up and laughing about some things. And all of a sudden the crickets stopped, and it went mute. It was almost like it hurt our ears because it was so quiet, which is very unusual. And usually the only thing that indicates as a predator is in the area. Okay. And so we both knew exactly what it was. We knew that there were Bigfoots all around us at that point. Now we sat there for a minute trying to listen and figure out where they were coming from, and we both detected Bigfoots. One right behind Robbie, right in front of me, one to the side, and then there was one down by my truck. Okay, and the truck was a long way. It was a good walk back to where my truck was, and so we sat there for a few minutes, probably 10 minutes or so, and we started realizing that we needed to get back down to the truck because we might be cut off by Bigfoots. We just kind of didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So we thought it'd be safer just to go stand by the truck and not let them cut us off. And we got back down to where my vehicle was parked, and we looked back up, and we could see their shadows walking, 2 shadows exactly where he and I had been standing.
Wow.
Yes, bipedal. Big, gigantic, hulking shadow figures up there, and they were absolutely Bigfoot in my book, hands down. There were a couple Bigfoots up there for sure. So it was a fun experience. It wasn't scary. I'm inoculated to all the craziness out there, but and so is he. He's a police officer, so he was calm. Yeah.
So
but
do you
it was
go
fun.
to this? Do you go to this location often? I know you said you don't get out as much
do.
as you used to.
Yeah,
so
I do.
So do you think that these Bigfoot knew who you was?
They knew me probably. Yeah, I've been up there a bit. I think that they know a lot of us. Our whole team. They know before we go. I know that sounds wild to a lot of people, but I do believe that they psychically energetically pick up that we're coming out there. Yeah.
Right.
Oh yes. So it was interesting because they weren't there to hurt us or anything. They were there to observe. They probably heard us talking very loudly. Over the crickets. Yeah.
So you were saying the crickets got louder and louder. Is that usual for when these Bigfoot are cryptids about?
It's not usual to hear crickets that loud at that area at all. I'd never heard crickets be that loud before. Not in that area. Yeah, but it was a warm night, and it was overcast, and it had been raining that day, and so the conditions were mild. So So it was just, I mean, he and I started being loud. We were all competing for, to
Trying to
sing
be
and
heard.
talk over each other. Yeah. But yeah, it was a little unusual. It was.
Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've only ever heard of like all like the birds and crickets and all the other wildlife just cutting short when there's,
Yeah.
like you said, when there's a predator about.
Yes.
But when you said it was getting louder and louder, it just strange, very strange.
Yeah. It was strange. It was strange that it got louder and louder, and then it just completely stopped. And it sounded, this is in the middle of the mountains. So
Right.
everything echoes and it's really loud. And so I just looked at the clock. It said 11:11. I love it when that happens. I'm sorry. I had to call that out. But yeah, it's when it just shuts down like that. That happens quite often when we're having a Bigfoot experience or there's some
Yeah.
Sasquatches in the area. But you have to be very aware of the surroundings because there are bears out in the mountains. There are mountain
Yeah.
lions, panthers, all sorts of predators that it could be. So we did have to take precaution, so to
Yeah.
speak. And that's why we thought it would be best to go back down to the truck just for cover if we needed
Yeah.
it.
Just in case if you had to dive in there, anything
If we
popped
had to
up. Or,
run.
yeah. Less distance to cover and straight in.
Yes.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say it's safe. You get it, you open that door to the truck and you get in and you're protected. You know what I mean?
Close
So,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
And if it gets too much, just drive away.
And we could just drive off, right? If the
Yeah.
car will crank, because
Yeah.
that's crazy. Because a lot of times we call that a UFO field, because we've had so many UFO experiences there while we're bigfooting, and
Yeah.
and so me personally, my vehicles all it doesn't matter which vehicle I drive to those areas, my batteries will shut down, my alarm will go off by itself, the keys will lock, the keyless remote thing will start locking and unlocking my car
Oh, right,
by
yeah.
itself. And so I always have my keys in my pocket, and
Yeah.
I usually let people know where I'm going in case my car won't crank or the electrical parts shut down, because of
Yeah.
it's the high strangeness out there. For whatever reason, affects my car every time. My car's fine everywhere else, but when I
Yeah.
go out there, I start having problems.
So do you think there's some
Yeah.
sort of vortex? Is that the right word?
A vortex?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Around the
could
area.
be. It's just there's vortexes all around there, I think. And Barry can talk about this too. About we've been looking into portals a lot lately.
Oh, right.
And so that's something that he and I have been talking about since the day we met, which has been a while. And yeah, we have portals in that area. I do believe. I think there's portals everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Do you think they're random, or do you think they're struggle saying it, specifically placed?
portals?
Yeah.
Well, Barry can probably answer that a little better than I can. I do think so. I think that some of them are natural.
Yeah.
And then there's some that are not natural that are placed around places for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Jessica, maybe mention some of the technology that your team takes with you.
Yeah.
That kind of levels the playing field a little bit. Things about you detected radiation inside the
Yes.
portals, didn't you? Or near
That's right.
radiation
Yeah.
spikes.
Yes. My team has documented a portal, what we think is a portal.
Yeah.
And sent some people in it. I know we've probably talked about this before, but
Is this the box?
yes,
The cube.
it's
Sorry.
called the Cube. You're correct. It's
yeah.
at the meadow. That's actually a different location than where I was with the crickets.
Yeah.
We cover places all over the South. We have different research areas all over the place in the southern U.S. is what
Yeah.
I mean by that. And so, yeah, we carry Geiger meters, and so a
Yeah.
Geiger counter is it measures radiation levels and radiation spikes. And so, a lot of times when we have paranormal activity out in the field, those meters will spike just a little bit. Okay,
Yeah.
and I know some people will say, well, we have radiation all around us all the time. Well,
Yeah.
but it's very interesting that it spikes when we're having paranormal activity specifically in the field, and when we have the cube shows up, for instance,
Yeah.
there's a radiation spike. If we have disembodied voices, there's a spike. Okay. Anything that happens, usually paranormal, we do have a radiation spike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the cube, has that happened? I know it happened once because you said two of your colleagues went through it and then come back.
Yeah.
Has that happened more than once? Have you experienced that more than once?
Yes. It's been more than once, but we've only documented it once.
Right.
Yeah.
And
We
was
have
that
it
in the
actually
same
documented.
location? Yeah.
No,
So is that in this?
two separate locations
Oh, was it?
actually. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
I just think because I was going to say, was that like I don't know, a static portal or
Could
one
be.
that
Well, they
mobile?
didn't.
I don't know what you call it.
Well, the first time when the gentleman went inside or went to go inspect it, they were only my teammates documented it because they were filming it through their FLIR, okay, a camera.
Oh, yeah.
And so she was filming it unbeknownst to most of the other people around. They didn't know that she'd even turned her camera on.
Right.
And so she was recording it. The gentleman walked up to it. They didn't know they were walking up to anything because they couldn't see it. They were just
Right.
guided over to where this square was out in the field. And as they walked up to it, their heat signatures disappeared. Okay. And so they said that the whole environment did change. So the stars disappeared, the vegetation changed on the ground, and it was like walking through a dark velvet curtain. The temperature got a little bit cooler, and they knew there was something off. Okay.
Right.
And so they sat there for a minute, and then they turned around and walked back. They didn't know they were walking out, but they walked out. They were just in an open field, so they didn't know.
Yeah.
They just knew something was off.
About.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, and the other time, one of my teammates actually was one of those same gentlemen that walked into the cube. He was with us on another location, and he and a couple of my other teammates on another team that I'm on, because we were all on different teams, and some of us are on the same teams on different, So he and one of my other teammates went into a very similar situation actually in the field. So it happens. A lot of people. I would like to say, I mean, I think that could be an explanation to where all these missing people are going. I mean, I don't know. I think that my teammate was very lucky to get out both times and tell about it.
Oh, yeah. But like you said, if you don't know that there's a portal there and you're just walking about, whether you're tracking or I suppose going to the shops or anything, you can just walk through one and not know till you've gone out the other side.
And then you're living in another dimension. Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because then if that closes, or you don't know, if you've gone into that other realm or whatever, then realize you're somewhere totally different, you turn around to get back out. You're going to guess where you're going to be walking.
Yeah.
Where the exit entrance is. Yeah.
Scary.
I'd like to go through one, but not hang about and come back. Just have a quick look.
I mean, my team actually set up protocols in case we encountered another portal, and it involved. I mean, and it's so primitive, right? Because no one that I know of has ever experienced a portal and documented it, and had to decide as a team, like, what are we going to do next time this happens, and who's going in? Who's going in? Because we are a research team. And it was funny because the guys were like, "Well, how about who has the best health insurance? Okay, who has the best life insurance policy? Like who's going to benefit the most from not going and going? So they were joking, but at the same time,
kind of being serious. Yeah,
they were kind of being serious, like trying to decide who's going to wrap a rope around their waist and who's going to pull them out.
Yeah, a bit like Poltergeist through the TV.
Yeah, well, because we don't really know what to do.
No.
So,
if you was chosen to do that, would you want to do it? Either of you?
I would not. No, I would not. I have a small child. I have an 8-year-old. So, and I'm a single parent. So, I would have to politely decline that. Yeah,
fair enough.
Because of my child. But I mean, I am pretty adventurous, Andy. Barry knows. I like to get out and do crazy stuff, but not that crazy.
Not one step too far, literally. Yeah, Barry, would you go through, given the opportunity?
Okay, sorry. What's that again now?
Sorry, would you go through a portal if you was given the opportunity?
I've been technically on board a craft where there were portals opening and closing, and it made me very nauseated. All right.
Right.
And I think that, when we deal with these portals that are natural earth portals, we've got these different ones. You've got the cube, like what Jessica saw. We've got the ones that look like the wavy lines or steam,
like
rather,
the shimmery effect.
the shimmery type of thing. Yeah. So there are different types of these portals, the others that actually look spiral to a degree. So I think that, when you go through one of those, you don't know what's on the other side. That's the problem. You don't know where you're going. And the other problem, can you get back? So I think having protocols like what you're talking about, Jessica, is very important, especially when we deal with this missing 911 or 411 thing. How many these different types of disappearances happen in almost, in vision of somebody else almost. So very dangerous. The portal thing is no joke, I think. No. And when looking at there's scientists actually talking about weaponizing portals and how to control them. So I think the question of scientifically of portals existing is out now. We know that they exist scientifically. So they're trying to control them, which is a frightening aspect.
Yeah. But I think you just covered that. The biggest question in that is, could you get back out? That's the main key in all that, I think.
Yeah.
It's all right going through.
You remember a show called Sliders?
Sliders.
I remember it.
With
rings
Jerry
a bell.
O'Connell about in the early 90s. Yeah, it's called Sliders, mid 90s maybe. That's kind of the whole concept, is that he created the vortex and able to get through, and once they slid into another Earth, they couldn't get back. And they kept sliding and sliding and sliding. And I wouldn't want to do that either. That didn't look like any fun at all to me.
No. He's jumping from one round dimension to another until you eventually, hopefully, you get back. If you ever get back.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, there's a lot of TV shows that we grew up on, or I did, like Quantum Leap, for instance, where they're jumping timelines and stuff, and it's like we've been pre-programmed to accept this stuff, in our adult days, I guess. It's almost like they've been putting it in our faces this whole time. So I don't know. We're living it now, all this timeline jumping and all that kind of stuff.
I know. Well, have you seen the movie, is it Jumper? I think is that the one with Bruce Willis?
No, that's the one with the guy. The only thing he did besides being Darth Vader, Christian Haydenson, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
That's him. Jumper. Good show though. I thought that was a good movie. Kind of reminded me of something that actually came out of England when I was a kid. I used to watch all the time, called The Tomorrow People. The Tomorrow People were teleporters all the time.
Yeah, that kind of scared me a bit. I was only 7, 8, 9, around that age. Yeah, and it was like, I'd watch zombie movies and all that, I'd be fine. But it was just really, really creepy. So, I do remember that. We have got some questions for you.
Cool.
If I'll start at the beginning and just work through them, is that okay?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Right. So the first one is from Rick Allen, and he'd like to know, this is for Jessica, if you remote viewed the Jersey Devil, were you able to determine its origin?
Yeah, that was a weird one. That was a very strange one. Okay, and here's where assigning the target comes into play, and like how important it is to know how to exactly assign a target. I think my target might have been a little bit off on that one, because here's the thing with that. What I found was there were more than one Jersey Devil. So I ended up remote viewing 2 different targets. There was one, just the overall Jersey Devil, which it seemed to be more like a bat or something. I was picking up on some sort of like a bat for that one, but it wasn't really a bat, but it looked like one of those hammerhead bats.
Yeah, the big horsehead type thing. Yeah.
Yes. Well, my guest that was on with me that assign me that target, he said that he was from New Jersey, where they have the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
And he had suggested that perhaps it could have been a pterosaur. Okay, some of the earlier sightings of this thing, because it went back to the 1700s with Napoleon Bonaparte's brother seeing one and documenting it. And we have modern day pterosaur, flying lizard sightings here in America, and all over North America actually. And so we were debating as to whether, well, maybe this thing had been a misidentified pterosaur. At first. Yeah. Okay, so we had that discussion. Well, I had also remote viewed one incident of a family who had encountered the Jersey Devil on their rooftop one night. Okay, and this was a woman, her son, their whole family, and they were terrorized by something that had flown from a tree to the rooftop of their house and left prints, like hoof print. It was hooves.
Yeah.
Okay, and I had remote viewed that, and I actually. My data suggested it was like Goat Man. Okay. Oh. It was more like a Goat Man type of a figure. So, and it had come out. This is where it gets really interesting. It came out of a portal. Okay. So there was something on that property, and it's called the Pine Barrens, I believe. Yes. And the Pine Barrens are a very highly strange area. They have a lot of high strangeness there. Dense wooded forests and kind of swampy. And there's a lot of cryptids sighted out there. So this, what they consider to be the Jersey Devil in that case, was more like a Goat Man entity. So so I can't say that I completely got the exact origins of the Jersey Devil, because there are several Jersey Devils that have been spotted over the centuries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the Skunk Ape round in the Pine Barrens as well.
The skunk apes are mostly in the southern United States, as in Florida, in Georgia, and South Carolina. But I mean, it's really just a name. I mean, it's a Sasquatch. So it would just be Sasquatch. Yes, there are Sasquatch sightings up there. Right. Yeah, they're all over the entire country.
Yeah, I think I'm in the wrong country and all that.
Yeah.
Every time I'd hear the word Pine Barrens, it was always a General Hospital. The Sonny Corinthos would throw bodies out there, taking the Pine Barrens. And now I hear about Sasquatch. It's so fascinating. I didn't know what they were until this.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's what Donnie, who was my co-host or my guest that day, was telling me, that the Pine Barrens are where the mob, the mafia, would go take dead bodies. They'd go kill people out there. And so it just has a really seedy history too. In addition to it being super scary.
Yeah.
So
I suppose if it's all swampy in that, you got to throw a body somewhere. You ain't going to be dragging it back out anytime soon, are you?
That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, what really got me thinking was, like, why did the family who lived at the Pine Barrens, they came up in the Pine Barrens basically, are the ones who had the Goat Man on their roof, that did leave like a large track line of these huge hoof prints that were cloven hooves, like goats have actually. And
was it snowing?
It was snowing. Yeah, it was on Monster Quest. Yeah.
Yes.
Monster Quest did a show on that.
Yeah, because didn't it went over the roof, then it went through a field, and it went over bales of hay.
I don't know if it went over the bales of hay. It did. It jumped from like a tree or something onto the roof.
Yeah, the one I heard, it's like the footprint stopped at this bale of hay, and then they climbed up to the top of it, and then the hoof prints were going across the top of the bale of hay as well.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like one bale, it was like 10, 20 foot up.
Well, it was a jumper apparently, and so Barry and I have discussed the spring-heeled jack that is out of England actually, and so Barry made the connection. Barry, you made the connection to the entities that come in and out of our reality. If you want to talk about that a little bit, that's a very interesting topic.
Well, we got a lot of these cryptids that just jump in and out of our awareness. I mean, literally, even everywhere from Chupacabra to Spring-heeled Jack to the Mothman. These are beings that just jump in our field of awareness and then jump away. I always find that very, very interesting, in terms of perception and how the universe and perception, consciousness crosses our consciousness. So you know, it's very interesting and manifested beings. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think they jump in, have a look round, and think, "No, I'm not staying here. Go somewhere else"?
You lost me, man. That was real quick. What was that again?
All right. I said, do you think that they jump into our world, have a look round, and then think, "Oh no," and then jump and go somewhere else?
They're like, "I'm out of here."
That sounds funny, but I think actually so. And I think their ability to stay corporeal in this dimension or materialize is limited. You know, the same thing might go with certain types of Sasquatch. They need these trees to actually manifest. You know, I had the most interesting thing without going too far. You know, I do hypnosis too, and I do past life regressions. And I had somebody that was so empathically connected to the earth for actually this incarnation, and that's what they're really working with. I inquired about the Sasquatch and trees at the end of the session before I brought them out, and they're not into Sasquatch, but they started telling me a lot of things about how many Sasquatch are trees and how many trees are Sasquatch and how they manifest through the trees, and that's the popping sound that's heard sometimes, but that actually it wipes out the tree, and that they can only do it so often with each tree so often. And I found that fascinating because taking scientifically what we know about them and taking what is it, Jessica? I heard you saying something about the woo-woo yesterday. I don't like that term either. But to taking the woo-woo out of it, taking the woo-woo out of it, though, what is it about Sasquatch scientifically that causes them to drain batteries and to drain electrical devices as rapidly as a portal would? Wouldn't you say, Jessica? It's pretty close.
Yeah, just like my car battery. Yeah, that's every time I'm out in Sasquatch country, my electrical, everything electrical on my cars, no matter what car I take, I've taken several different cars out there, and it shuts all of them down at some point or makes it go haywire. And I don't know what that is. They're generating their power. They're manifesting off those batteries, I think, just like ghosts do, spirits do when you're doing ghost hunts. Yeah.
Well, it's like these crafts that have been seen near the sun, like these UFOs that are drawing.
Very knows.
Go ahead, Jessica. Knock it out of the ballpark. That was a trip. Yes, that's a good point, Andy.
So absolutely. So we'll talk about, if you'd like, we can talk briefly about one of the targets that Barry assigned me, and it was one of the more interesting targets ever that I've ever been given. And so he assigned me a set of numbers. I do coordinate remote viewing. Yeah. And all I have is...
Sorry, can I just ask a quick question before you carry on?
Yes.
To do with what you're going to talk about. So this is from Jojo, the moderator. She watches a lot of the stuff that you guys do. She was just going to ask, how does Barry pick out a location for Jess?
Or a target?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'll let you go ahead and finish what you were saying, because you were kind of nailing it right there. You were answering it kind of. So
Okay.
And it's more concise than what I could say. So.
Okay. Well, so I'll try to answer that with what I was about to say. How about that? Yeah. And we'll go please. There, because Barry has a way of. Barry's one of the best researchers I know in this field, in the paranormal field, and we had an instant connection from the day we met, with my field research and all of his research that he does, and you've done field research too, Barry, and so and just putting our thoughts together on stuff, he and I have been able to start looking at things differently and different perspectives, and maybe solving some. I'm not saying we've solved any mysteries, but.
I don't know about that.
we kind of have, perhaps, because our big thing when we first met were portals, we happened, it was no coincidence, we were both asked to speak at Camp Disclosure here in Georgia, where I live, and when we met, I was talking about a portal that my team had experienced out in the field. Well, Barry gave his presentation and was showing black cubes that looked just like the cube that we experienced on spaceships that he had encountered. And so I was blown away. I stood up and was asking questions out of the audience to Barry, and I made that connection, and he and I since then had a fascination with these portals and these cubes. And so one of the blind targets that Barry gave me was Earth's weaponized portals, natural portals. Okay, natural portals on Earth that had been weaponized, and all I had were a set of numbers. I didn't know what this target was, and I sat down and I came up with some of the most interesting data. But let me tell you, instead of being on Earth, I was taken. Basically, I felt like I was being sucked through a wormhole or something on this one, or maybe that was a TRAPPIST. I went to the sun. Okay, I was actually remote when that was the target. Earth's weaponized natural portals. A lot of my data was coming out of like spaceships coming out of the sun, in and out of the sun. So it had a connection to Earth's weaponized portals. Okay. So Barry, you might want to elaborate a little more on that.
Well, it's fascinating because I wasn't expecting that. And I've long since been saying through my experiences and also through certain science that I believe that the black spots on the sun are not just sunspots and coronal ejections, they're also portals.
Yeah.
And that, anyone can get on the SOHO website and actually look at the data. They've got a data bank there that you can look at the sun. It takes a picture of the sun, like, what is it, every 2 minutes, every couple of minutes, something.
Yeah.
But you can look at it in different nanospectrums too, different color frequencies. And on some of them, like you go to the green nano frequencies, you see these ships coming in out of the sun, some of them cubical, some of them huge. In fact, on YouTube, a lot of people have gone and found some of the frames because it's not easy to research the archives, but they're free. And they've actually seen solar flares being deflected by some of these large craft. And the size of the sun, some of these things would be bigger than the size of Jupiter. So that is like almost what we call it, a Death Star type of craft size anyway. Wow. So those are things anyone can look up that can't be explained coming off the sun through the SOHO website. Yeah. So these are things, and then I just wasn't expecting her to pick up on the sun as much as she did, when I was coming in. So you've got, I think, not just possibly negative, dark humans trying to do this, but you've also got factions that use, wormholes and actually the fabric of space as their primary power source. So those are the ones that are going to be able to manipulate stars and the gravitational fields and actually portals within them. And quick before I set up, between the Earth and the sun, the magnetic fields is something called electron diffusion regions. And what those are these doors at the connection point. These doors open every few moments. They're these natural portals. That's scientifically recorded. You can look that up. So, you've got something like that and knowledge of that, and that we actually have human scientists trying to manipulate them and trying to create them. I think it's easier to try to control the ones that already exist. That's what the negative forces do, as opposed to trying to make their own all the time, because there's a problem with coherency and stabilization. Even if you're dealing with something like CERN or something like that, those are just not stable, So anyway, I'll be quiet, but thanks for asking. That was a great question.
I was just going to say, because one of the pictures of the sun, I think it was last year, maybe the year before, was what looked like a giant black cube drawing energy from the sun. I remember that one. It's like,
what is that? What does that make you think of? It's kind of weird, isn't it? It makes you think of Jerry Ryan. Like, where's 7 and 9? Like the Borg. It must be a Borg cube. I don't know. Because
you say nature doesn't have straight lines. So if there's a cube at the sun, it's gonna stand out, and you're gonna think about it.
Well, and that takes us back around to the cube that my team encountered in the meadow during our research, and then Barry having the cubes in the spaceship that he was on, and this cube thing just keeps coming up over and over again. Even in the latest David Paulides movie, this Missing 411 with the UFO connections, he has a story in there that Barry actually informed me about, of a gentleman who encountered a clear cube that seemed to be some sort of almost like a spaceship or something. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, a craft. You could see through it.
Yeah. So what is it about the cubes? What's so special?
I'll tell you one thing. Mathematically, they've been shown to be able to contain consciousness. All right. And for like the experience of me, what Jessica's talking about, these craft I've been on board, it's, excuse me, some of these craft are coming from different universes. And we have to accept that it's not just a galactic thing or just a Milky Way thing or even a galactic thing. This is not even just a universal thing. It's universal, multiple universes. You know, I had to, when I started dealing with Dr. Rudy Shields privately, I had to accept some of this mathematically, that what I was saying wasn't holding up with some things in quantum physics, such as these different galaxies I thought these beings were coming from that were way, way out. We're talking about like 900 billion light years out around the Bell galaxy. He's telling me that's a different universe. You don't understand the fabrics of it. They didn't say that, but that's what it is. Yeah. So when dealing with that and these different portals that they can make to actually get coherency to go into another universe and to come back. So that's the difference there, and that we're dealing with sentient craft that are actually capable of doing that. You know, at least the ones I've been on board. And in this case here, when transferring material from one universe to another, you have to use certain geometric shapes. And the cube is one of them. Like this universe is basically based on the spin, on the spiral. Everything shows that here, from the proton to the nucleus to all the way to the galaxies. But a different universe, what could it be based on? Perhaps cubical, pyramid, crystalline, amorphous metals. There's several different ways to go with that, you know. So that's just food for thought. What shape can transfer material from that universe to this one? The cube is one of them, or consciousness. Food for thought, eh?
Oh yeah, it is, because the main thing people think are orbs, so spherical, ball shaped. Mm-hmm. So that was the main thing for forever, wasn't it? And then these cubes, like you said, these cubes just started appearing. So do you think then?
Well, when we deal with the biofield, okay, and the energy body, the dream body, we're capable of shape shifting that and molding that. It doesn't stick to the same parameters of this body. So once you have someone that can shift their cognitive abilities into their auric field and start molding that, one of the shapes that can be used for interstellar travel is the spear. So you see, that's why you see a lot of these spears, these orbs. You pick some of the orb, looking at the pictures of some of these orbs people have, like my friend Bill. You look in there and he always just say, look, there's a Stewie head in there, a Stewie head. I mean, who the heck is Stewie? I don't, it's, I guess, Anyway, but you can see a face like almost grays or something in there. You know, so that's showing how that form can be actually used. And real quick, before I shut up, and we talked about this before, Jessica, John Vavinko, him and I were privately talking about crop circles. I want to know what his team saw on crop circles. And he had saw during those portals that you have literally thousands of entities from the other side trying to squeeze that portal all at once. And what happened is that's like the three of us trying to stick our head into a ketchup bottle. It's going to be real hard. But those that are able to actually, those that are able to squeeze through, they emerge in this dimension in an orb form, in collective conscious orb form. And that connected all the way to the balls that I had Jessica remote view when we first started that, the plasma balls over, I don't want to say it wrong, is it Wiltshire? The ones, the plasma balls, she was making the crop circle. She remote viewed that and got a really amazing information from that. So I don't want to take us too far off topic, so I interrupted you. I apologize for that.
It's carry on, it's fine. It's the more we cover, the better. It's so interesting. I'm learning so much tonight.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But it's just something else to think about on top of all the other unanswered questions we've got.
Hey, Jessica, what message did you get from the orbs? You remember the message?
I do remember. Okay, so when Barry had me remote view the orbs that make the crop circles. Okay, and it was, I mean, the videos that he had shown me after I remote viewed it and everything, they were in England, right, Barry?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where they were. Okay, and I picked up on two different types of orbs. Okay, there were the original orbs that were from source energy. They were like, let's just say good, good. Yeah. They were the good orbs giving humanity messages to better humanity and to move us along, right, with messages. And then, but that I guess you could call it technology. I don't know. It had been corrupted, okay, and taken by like other people to put out false messages and things that were corrupted, and even for corporations to use, like you can see some crop circles that are like the Microsoft logo and stuff, things like that. So but some of them had been used and corrupted. However, as I was remote viewing it, I was getting a message, and it was a message straight from source, basically, that said, and I said this live on air that night, and as I said it, my whole body got completely hot, and I started sweating, and it was that we know you're tired, but thank you for your teamwork. Please keep going. We're here and we support you. Okay, is what I was told. I think there was a little more to that, but that was the gist. We know you're tired and you don't want to be here anymore. That's what they said. And I didn't take that as just like for me, because I was tired. I don't want to be here anymore sometimes with all the craziness going on, but not that I'm going anywhere, but you know what I mean? Like we're just, it's a very long, weary, winding road that we've been on right now. And the world is just gone to hell in a lot of ways. And I think that was, I knew what it meant, when I actually had written it down as I was feeling it and I was hearing it. And so we know you don't really want to be here anymore, but keep going. We're here. We support you. We appreciate your teamwork is what they told me. And I feel like a lot of people could really connect to that message. And maybe that's, I think that was the original source of those orbs, making those crop circles, was to put out messages much like that.
Yeah. So sorry, can you just ask a quick question? Mm-hmm. So with the messages that they're doing in these crop circles, why? I'm guessing they only happen in the UK.
I don't know, Barry. Do you know? Can you answer that one?
No, that seems to be the Prime's place. But there was a Crop Circle Connector, and then Crop Circle, the one that got shut down. Sorry, I can't remember the name of it, but they showed them all over the world, several. But it seemed like Wiltshire in that area is really the focus of it. I would imagine it happens near these ley lines. And something about what she was mentioning about these crop circles, the ones, the people like Linda Moulton Howe and Patty Greer that have been in all these circles, they start saying that there's certain ones that make you feel ill and others make you feel elated. So that's going to be these negative plasma versus these positive plasma. And the positive ones that she mentioned, when looking at like the work from Dr. Livingood, the scientific evidence, it's showing something completely different, that these are the potential to solve food shortage. There's something that when these bent nodes in those real crop circles are exposed to these microwaves, and it causes this thing called this high energy plasma and microwaves that causes something called an electron avalanche. And the electron avalanche actually makes these seeds more resistant than they were to anything else once they recover. And so the seeds that the crop that's grown from these seeds from crop circles yield like twice the product, twice the biofuel, I think they were saying, things like that. So, and when looking at some of the shapes that they're showing us, some of those are free energy devices and free energy contraptions. So some of that is what I think that's the good thing coming from that's completely being overlooked. What I just said there, I don't ever hearing like ancient aliens talking about it. They should be. There should be more people testing that. You know what I mean? But anyway, going, just concerning that, hopefully that kind of covered that a little bit. And somebody asked a question when you get done, I want to answer, actually. It's pretty interesting. I just caught a good question.
Do you know I've got about 15 questions. Do you know what the question contained?
Oh, yeah. No, I can tell you what it was. They had mentioned about ships morphing and changing shape. Okay, please, whoever that was, I can catch the name, but go to, might have been Adam, I think. Please go to my YouTube channel, check out my personal encounters, and look at the morphing organic UFO. I've done probably 10 videos over it. I've been on board a craft that can do that. And more than that, I saw a craft like that in the sky, the same craft that looks like we could call a Pleiadian type of saucer type of look. And it starts having a static looking distortion around it, and it morphs into something that looks like 3 quasi crystals with, if I say the word right, stalagmites coming off. There's a stalactites coming out of it, and this thing is almost like a molecule going. But the same token, I just told you, a ship I've been on board had all these wormholes in it. Okay, they're opening and closing. They're small, and it's making me dizzy to be in here. What this is a craft, a living craft that is capable of projecting and creating wormholes or placing them in a place to decide which one is the path of most coherency to the universe it's going to. So when I see this craft, first looks like a metal ship for this universe, this dimension, it's doing a pattern of unfoldment to go to a universe that is crystalline base.
Right. So it's
making a pattern of unfoldment to match its destination. Yeah, that's kind of technology there.
Each environment.
Mm-hmm. And that's a little more than just the ones that use the conversion of orgone energy to modifying that into a gravitational modification field they put around the ship. That also, the byproduct of that conversion process makes this mist type of a product that they can use to be for cloaking, like a lenticular cloud. They'll appear like that. And anytime any of your audience sees a cloud in the sky, a single one that has these little rainbow stripes in it, just one cloud, look at that cloud, study it, because that's another problem with that conversion technology. It creates that sometimes. That cloud is probably not what it appears to be. Food for thought.
Oh, yeah. Again, more. I'm going to be full by the end of this show.
Right on.
Do you
That's
think,
the fun part, right?
Yeah. So when they're doing this conversion, do you ever think, or do you know that sometimes you get it wrong, and that's why we see the strangeness of what's going on?
Well, I think the problem is that sometimes they can only meet us so much in this third density, and that will even tie into what Jessica and I talked about and did a product over this these bases outside of our universe or outside of our solar system on the edge on these dwarf planets. They're called trans-Neptunian objects. During my contact, I was told there were bases there that were, as they put in my mind, jumping off points into this solar system because they have problems with the density. And not just the density, but also there's something that I call the net here. It's like some type of a scalar electrical frequency that we come in here, it shocks our souls. And when you incarnate, we are incarnate on this planet devoid of soul life memories. There's a reason for that. You know, that's not all just divine. Anyway, we won't go into that. That takes us way down the rabbit hole. But nonetheless, it's just weird because everything we're talking about connects to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sadly, it's not the separate categories we want it to be.
Even though what you're talking about is very deep, things are starting to make a lot more sense. And getting the connections between what people are seeing, what I've encountered, what everyone else is talking about, to what you've just said, there's a bigger and better connection now.
And you know, the thing is, Andy, that people, and you know, I always had this theory, and I couldn't prove it, but now that I've been given enough of a platform to talk to other experiencers all over the world, I know it's true. Okay, you know, when we deal with these beings that are on a density or a vibration that's so much faster than us, and I'm not talking about the grays and the reptilians and all these beings that we're familiar with in the media. I'm talking about the trillions of galaxies we have and beings from other galaxies that come through here consciously, especially. You know, it changes everything. So people that see a UFO, you know, especially the people before the era of drones, you know, you might see a UFO, you and one other person. Oh my God, look at that UFO right there. There's 10 people standing with you. They're going, where? You know, you got two people going right there, and they can't see it. You know, that is a target contact. And we wouldn't think, like right now, if you're a Star Trek fan like me, you wouldn't think, okay, the entire Federation just stopped what they were doing to single-handedly just communicate with me. I'm not that important. But that's exactly what's happening. So you get people that see these UFOs like that go under regression go down to the lower theta level, and they find that they had a total experience. So much information was transferred that the only way it's coming out in the third dimension is they're having dreams several nights afterwards about strange beings or that's kind of how that goes down. That's contact, big time.
Well, Jess did a remote viewing for me where I used to live, and I was having really strange dreams about Star Wars, pretty much UFOs in the sky, and the same bloke was in each of the dreams, and every time I seen him, he'd say to me, "What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be able to see any of this." And I've dreamt of being on a ship, and the ship so it had like a table and chairs and control panel, but it wasn't like a chair and a table like you have in your dining room. It was all molded and it was all seamless. There was no corners. It was just all like liquid, it was solid, but all blended into each other. Pure white. Didn't see any beings. I could see through the windows and stars and planets and that. So I'm shaking a bit while I'm talking about it. But I know it was a dream, but at the same time, it felt real.
Well, do you know for sure it was a dream?
No,
exactly.
Your astral body.
You understand? We experienced something like that, and we're like in between dimensions, universes, whatever you want to call it, densities.
Yeah.
A lot of our imagination has to kick in through the pineal gland. Yes. So therefore, it seems like it's somewhat dreamlike. And remembering that some of these beings are meeting, and what you just described is a non-earthly environment. So vibrationally, it's meeting you midways. I didn't understand why at first I would get so sick on these craft, especially when I was a kid. It was really bad. Yeah. And I was trying to run around everybody, and I see one experience. I see other people like going over and touching the light on the edge of this craft on this deck. Yeah. And they're all like kind of see-through, a little bit like transparent. I know now it's because they're in their energy body, in their dream body. And you've got these technologies that can bilocate us from our physical body to our dream body and our full cognitive abilities in our dream body. You know what I mean? Right. And therefore, they weren't getting sick like I was about to throw up during this experience because it's not the same as being here. It's the inside and outside of the craft are not in the same dimension. And it's certainly not the third dimension quite in there. So it's not quite right for us. Right. You know what I mean? At least for me, it wasn't. They called it temporal aphasia, but to me, man, it felt like being on a merry-go-round. And I don't like merry-go-rounds, didn't like them as a kid. And now I definitely know why. You know what I mean? I feel like, or like when you go down in a roller coaster, the first big one you take, your stomach is gone. You know what I mean? It's like that, but it doesn't stop. It's like motion sickness. And then you're getting telepathically bombarded by beings that can answer your question before you fully form them in your mind. Yes. So all these things in the technology blows your perception. You don't have a full frame of reference for perception. So just that alone makes it hard to remember after the event horizon. You know what I'm saying? And why you thought when you first get on the experience, something's happened. It's like you just come from a field trip. But then after every couple minutes that passes, it starts becoming, as my brother would say,
But there's one thing I wanted to say to Jessica. When I give you the first location of where I grew up, and you said about the missing time, there's a few years later I actually seen, I'll call it a UFO, actually go through a portal. It's clear sky. I was on my way home from work. It was Friday afternoon. It was a bright blue electric object in the sky. Oh no, it was a silver object in the sky. It went across the sky, lit up electric blue. It then went bright red. Something opened up. It went through, and everything closed behind it. And it lasted about 3 seconds.
Wow.
And that was within 2 miles of where I had my first UFO experience when I was about 8.
Wow. That's amazing. Very amazing. I've been hearing a whole lot more about the portals and the UFOs going through them. I actually had a guest on my show at Spaced Out Radio, Tim Senor, who does the UFO report, actually.
Oh, right.
At Spaced Out Radio. So Tim came on my show a couple of weeks ago, and his family has something. It's called the Bainbridge Tic Tac UFO incident. Okay, and that was his family that filmed that, or it was him actually that took the pictures of this thing.
Right, okay.
And it was in, I think it was, I want to say in Seattle, like Washington, Washington State here, and there's actual pictures. Like we showed pictures of what looks like a portal around this Tic Tac UFO, and you can see it. And it went inside it, and it's just weird. It's stuff that I had not heard before until the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So
well, it wasn't. I was Jody Cook was on, and I was talking to him about it because he was saying about the Bigfoot and Dogman and all that, and then he was talking about portals, and I'm like, it made me realize this happened like 25, 30 years ago, and I'm like, this was on last year. It took me that long to realize that I'd seen a ship go into a portal.
Wow. It took a while to register it.
And it's like, oh my God. And it's like, as I'm chatting to you guys now, I'm chatting to Jody. It's like, I know what I seen back in 1995 or whenever it was. And that's what it was.
I tell you, Jody has some great dogman stories of extraterrestrial dogmen and working with our military or being caught by our military. So yeah, he's a fascinating interview, actually.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do like Jody. He's a top guy.
Me too.
Yeah, but just quickly as well, with the remote view and where he used to live, I also remember seeing. I've talked about a couple of weeks ago on the show what looked like an Apache type helicopter flying between the house. Like there's all fields and that at the back. It was doing maneuvers and that it shouldn't have been doing. I remember it was either I was off school for whatever reason, whether it's a weekend, whatever. I'm in the back, like bedrooms out the back, and I'm watching it. I could draw the pilot and the co-pilot like I'd seen them this morning. Even now, they was level with my bedroom window, so I could like looking straight at them. Didn't make eye contact with me. One had the full helmet and visor over, the other guy didn't. And whether they see me or didn't see me, I don't know. But then we had to go out, and Mum was shouting me to come down and hurry up. And then we're walking up the street. We only lived like in a little close. There's only 10 houses in the street that I grew up on. So I'm walking up, and I'm stopping and looking at this helicopter, and Mum's shouting me, telling me to hurry up. So looking back at it, I now think that my mum couldn't see it. And when I was talking about it the other week, I also realised that the helicopter wasn't making any sound. Now, you would have heard the blades and everything, and but someone in the chat will tell me what helicopter it is. I don't know helicopter. It looked like an Apache. It had the guns on the side, had the landing feet. It was like a greeny gunmetal colour, and that was it. And that was around the time when I think that I've got missing time.
That's fascinating. I mean, I honestly, I from firsthand experience know that not everybody can see what I can see, let's just say.
Yeah.
And that was, I have a perfect example of that. My son's father filmed him on our elliptical machine one day, and there were orbs floating around him, and I could see them with my eyes, and my son could see them with his eyes, and my son's pointing to them as they're floating around, and his dad could only see them through the camera phone, through the screen of his phone as he filmed it, and so he could not see them at all with his bare eyes, and so that showed me that we are on different frequencies. Okay, and there are events, there are entities, there are energies that are on these frequencies that if you're not on that frequency, you're not going to see it. So, and that is, and I have that video. I can't show it publicly. My son is in his underwear. So I can't show it, but my closest friends, my teammates, they've all seen it. It's a fascinating video because you can hear his dad say, well, I can't only see it through the camera. So it's actually a nice little tidbit of research, actually.
Oh, cool.
So,
right. Sorry. Should we do one more question before we go for a break? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Right. Let me see. Right, I'll do this one. This is from Ancient Ruby. She'd like to know, do you feel what the energy is made of within the portals?
I don't know. Barry, would you like to answer that one?
Well, I know some of the ships use a type of a plasma beam to open up a portal. So I'd assume it might have some type of a high energy plasma nature to it.
Thank you. Nice short one. Right, so we'll hit the break now. So we've got 5 minutes. There is a 10-second countdown at the end. So if you go off doing something, if you hear that, just run back.
We'll run back to our seats. Okay, thanks.
All right, then. See you guys in 5 minutes. Cheers.
Thank you. See you, Jess.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And we are back. Ooh, just made it, Barry.
Right on time.
Half a second, but I'll let you have that. Right, we have got some more questions, unless there's anything you want to cover first.
I can't think of anything.
Right,
I'm glad I made it back in time.
Yeah, we'll do questions and then just go from there, yeah.
Okay.
Right, this is to both of you from Rick Allen. He would like to know, do the guests have a faith that they believe in, or does religion shut out your theories?
I mean, I was raised Christian, you know. Yeah. I was raised in a Baptist church / Methodist church later on, and you know, I identify as Christian. Okay, and no, and every single person just about that goes out in the field with me and does does research with me, we're all there. Most of the guys are very devout Christians, you know, and I tell you what, it really does. It almost helps explain a lot of what's going on. It was things straight out of the Bible, you know, like having a biblical perspective on a lot of the stuff. Now, some people disagree with me on that, okay? But I really enjoy looking at every angle of the paranormal. And a lot of that has to do with biblical text and stuff, and like the giants, for instance, and even Dogman and Bigfoot. You know, some say that they have Nephilim DNA and stuff like that. So, I mean, I like to hear the theories and have discussions on that. So that's what I do on my show pretty often.
Thank you, Barry.
I have no religion. Never have. That was not ever part of my deal. For me, there's only the creator, the love of the creator, and spirituality. And that prevailed after I died in this body in a bad car accident in 2010. Part of the reason I'm speaking forward now. And I survived that. And, you know, the near-death experience itself put me on the same path with God. You know, there is something that these beings have used during the context. I'll ask, you know, who are you? You know, where do you come from? What do you want? Because what if they're deceptors? You never know. They could be deceivers. But, you know, I've got this answer, which has been the Christ consciousness, the Christ energy. I get that answer, and I'm not religious, so I immediately went, oh, not that thing. And it would tell me it's beyond any one person or any human construct or social economic thing. It's something different. Yeah. It's a frequency of the creator that we can access through love. And, you know, in all my experiences, there's no sexual connotation. There's been no abductive type of horrible scenarios, no SSP stuff. Yeah. So something they're telling me is real. So I got to go buy that. You know what I mean? So.
I suppose each person's encounter is going to be different from the next person. Some are going to, even if two people had the exact same encounter, for one person, it might be absolutely terrible. And for the next person, could be the best day of their life.
Right. Some people want to be taken, right?
Yeah.
It's like, get me out of here.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's also a couple different ways to look at that, too. Is that, to a degree, our ability and our will to project things is intense. So sometimes you may have, like, beings of a higher vibration who are kind of trying to communicate with you through the divine field, but we've been so saturated with grays and reptiles and negative encounters that when this starts happening, we start warping it into something that it might not be. These might be positive beings, and it suddenly becomes very negative. And we are strong enough to do that. And it's easy to say that because you've got a ton of beings out there that are doing that anyway. So it's not that that's unreal, but also when the other ones are trying to come through, we're in such a quagmire down here that it's hard to sometimes see clearly when you have higher beings or these Christ conscious energy thing type of trying to communicate with us. Yeah. You know, and it's even worse that their vibration is so fast, it leads to situations we just talked about. You see a UFO and get a bunch of downloads and having dreams about it the night before, and the dreams are hard to remember. It's like, you know, this the whole thing is fragmented and it makes it difficult, but that's where we are. This is, excuse me, I don't want to sound negative, but this is a very hellish place down here.
Yes.
Okay. And I would not want to go one vibration lower than here. No way. We'd right now have clubs in our hands doing this interview because there'd be these maniacs jumping out, these barbarians jumping out everywhere. It'd be horrible.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Definitely. Oh, right. So another question, sorry, from Ancient Ruby. So jumping back to portals, she wants to know, can you feel electricity on you when you're near the portals?
That's an interesting question, because the last time I went to the meadow, which was about a month ago, or maybe 2 months ago, I think it was about a month. I actually took my son for the first time, and I don't take my son on to my research areas ever. This was his first trip. We went during the day, and my team was out there, and one of my teammates, David, the one who spotted the portal in the first place. Actually, this was on the anniversary. I think it was a 5-year anniversary of when the portal showed up. So we were there on the anniversary. Okay. The team decided to make a trip out to the meadow, and just to do some research and see if the portal would show back up. For whatever reason, it was momentous, And so we got out there during the day. I took my son out. We hiked out to the meadow during the day, and we stood in the spot where the portal had opened up right there. My son was picking up quartz rock, like rocks, big chunks of quartz, and putting them in his backpack, and bringing them home. I was like, oh gosh, let's just pray to goodness a portal doesn't open up in our house, from those rocks, like a holographic portal.
They're just energy, aren't they?
Yeah, well, but we collect quartz everywhere. When I go on an investigation, I always bring my son home some quartz from that investigation. So I have a collection of it. But he was picking up quartz. David, my teammate David and I both noticed that we could see each other's auras as we stood there. So I can't say that I could see the energy of the portal, but we were seeing each other's auras on myself, on David, and my son. It was a clear energy coming off of all three of us. And when we'd walk to another part of the field, we couldn't see it anymore. So it was only where that portal had opened. So I'm not sure what that means. Now, when my other teammates came out and joined us in the meadow, we could see their auras as well. Some better than others. Yeah.
Were they different colors, or were they the same?
They were slightly different. Mostly the same. Yeah. Mostly the same, but slightly different.
What were they? What colors were they?
Well, first of all, it looked like it was looking like hot asphalt. Okay, like where you have that energy that's just like kind of off of you, like if you get really, the asphalt, the concrete gets hot. It was that, and it had like a pinkish tint to it on most of us. My teammate's wife, she has bright white hair, and so and you could see around her. I mean, you could really see the colors around her better because her hair was contrasting with the colors on it. So it was kind of a pinkish and a green and blue, and it was kind of rainbow kind of colors, like the prism, Maybe we're full of radiation out there. I don't know. There's no telling.
You didn't have your
Geiger we might have been radioactive. We were radioactive. We did have the Geiger counter, and there was a little spike out there, but
was there?
Yeah, it could have just been that we were being microwaved. I don't know. There's no telling.
Well, at least you're okay now. So
we survived that one. Yeah, we did. We're good.
Cool. Thank you. Right. This one's for Barry, and this is from Jojo. What's Barry's favourite cryptid?
Oh, wow.
I'm going to answer that.
What an interesting question. Wow.
And why?
Well, Sasquatch touched my life, so I'm a fan of Sasquatch. But I gotta say, maybe my favorite would be the Hopkinsville goblins. Kentucky, the goblins one. The thing that I think that actually they made the Gremlins off that caricature itself, the Gremlins movie. Yeah, but those things, and what I like about that so much is the story itself. When I first read that, I was a kid, and I got a certain vibration from the pictures I saw in the story. And the first story I read was somewhat different than what we hear traditionally now, which is these beings, the first walked up to them, they had on these silver suits. And now I hear it's more green, but their skin was green down these silver suits. And they had their hands. The first one walked up with his hands up, which traditionally a non-aggressive motion. Yeah. And he got blasted. And then he got back up and ran off, and they were shooting these things. They got up and ran off. Then they started crawling all around their property.
Wasn't it going on for hours? And then they called the police. The police came, and there's no evidence of anything other than the family in this house just shooting at nothing, basically. And then didn't the police go, and then these goblins returned?
They did come back, I think. Yeah.
Did they come back?
Actually, what happened was the family left the house. They all ran in their cars and drove to the police station.
Right.
I don't think they had a telephone. They didn't have phones back then, I don't think, or they didn't have it in that house.
Right.
So yeah, they
I think the father,
drove there.
The father and the eldest son or something drove to the police station.
There was a couple visiting from out of town. They worked at a circus, I think, or a sideshow or something, and it was a very strange story. But yeah, they were pretty much surrounded by these little goblins around the house all night, and the men of the house were shooting through the windows and stuff at these things. So
yeah, because at some point these goblins were levitating, weren't they? Just coming up to the first floor window, and they were shooting through the roof at them and everything.
They had a fascination with the children, and I know Barry and I have discussed this before because I remote viewed the incident.
That was my next question.
Yeah, I did remote view it. It was a while back. It was at least over a year ago. I did that. And so I don't remember all the details, but I do remember they were very interested in the children. And now I see it a tiny bit differently than Barry sees it, because Barry knows about the ET contact with children. That's kind of a common thing.
Yeah.
The vibe I was picking up on it was a little bit more sinister than that, but it was more than just contact. So Barry and I see it a little bit differently. So, but it's okay.
I'll tell you what.
Have to agree.
When I initially had tuned into this as a kid and as an adult, what I picked up from is first distress. The ship that they were on, something was wrong. Maybe they come in the atmosphere, got hit by something. I don't know, but something went wrong with their ship and it crashed. And then these are occupants actually trying to ask probably for help, and they got blasted. And then when you get blasted, all sorts of retaliation starts happening. And, kind of to me, you have idiots that are shooting at you, probably the one people that might communicate with you are the children. And if you notice, Bigfoot acts different with children too.
Yeah, it's
just food for thought. I'm not saying you're not right, Jessica. You may be. Maybe they wanted some children gonads. I don't know, but
I hope not.
But hopefully not, eh? Even the gremlins in that movie were kind of tricksters, so hopefully they weren't even that bad. I would hope,
Yeah.
They just my data was suggesting they were just very fascinated with the kids, and so that's what it was. They just had their eyes on them, and so the parents were terrified. I think that's what it was. The parents were worried that they were going to take their children.
Right.
It was weird. I would have been mad.
Yeah. What do you believe these goblins were?
I think they were ETs of some sort.
Yeah.
They were some sort of extraterrestrials.
I
Yeah.
think they're amphibious.
Yeah. That's what I got from the story. More so like with the levitating, and because he said about the large eyes and small bodies, big heads, and all that, didn't they? So,
probably from a slightly different density too, because it could be the suits too that stop the bullets from penetrating them. But it's interesting how all these things with a different density, bullets seem to have a problem with them. Sasquatch, the devil monkey.
Yeah,
the Wahila, all these different cryptids.
Dogman.
Now that is food for thought. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and it could be just that they're so thick it's like shooting a bear, but it seems to be something a little different. The way they don't respond at all and almost seem to be invulnerable to it. Very interesting,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing to think about.
Yeah. Well, not all Bigfoots, not all dogmen, not all cryptids are impenetrable. You can shoot some of them. I think it just depends on, because there's so many different varieties of them and different densities. And some of them, it's almost like with humans, okay? Like some humans are I'm not going to say less evolved than other humans, but you know what I mean. Like, okay, so well, even let's take for instance psychic abilities and things like that. Some
Yeah.
of us are able to communicate telepathically. There are some that have enhanced human capabilities that they use,
Yeah.
and things like that, and can potentially communicate. Excuse me, sorry, my dog's barking. Can potentially
it's okay.
communicate with, aliens and things like that, and cryptids telepathically, and ghosts and stuff. And some people just don't want to, and aren't aware that they even have those abilities. So, yeah.
No, thank you for that. I've got some more questions. Going back to the portals again. This is from Ancient Ruby. Do you see any colours around the portals?
No, not the ones that my team experienced. There was no color. Because it was dark at night, and it was just a heat signature. That's the only thing that the team saw. Yeah,
right.
Through a device.
Yeah. Do you say they're using a thermal imaging?
Yes.
The ones I saw on board craft were kind of whitish with a kind of a spin to them, like a distortion. So, but I mean, but they weren't real. They weren't in color a lot. Kind of like how peripheral vision is black and white. That type of a deal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. I've got a question for you then, Barry. How did you end up on the ship the first time?
The first time, it started as a kid, waking up in these rooms where they have you doing this kind of this telekinesis on like a feather on the desk. There's a bowl of water, then there's these balls you can levitate. Okay,
Right.
but my another experience is that they started going forward. I would just, I don't sleep good, and I finally fall asleep a little bit, and I wake up and I'd be on board with his craft, and it was always very startling. And then you're extra awake then, and I would have the experience. Then I'd be back in my room. That's the way they started off, all the way through what I call my acid rain experience that happened to me in the 6th grade. And then I had a couple of years off where I wasn't having these experiences the same. And then they started again when I was about 17. And I call those adult onset. And that involved the ships coming up, a lot of missing time, and hours and hours of it, and these physical encounters that took it to another level, where I knew after the acid rain experience that this wasn't my imagination. It wasn't, and I pretty much had isolated that I didn't have a chemical brain imbalance. I didn't think, so it wasn't that either. You never know. Could be insane. You never know. If you're insane, you're the last person to probably know it, right? So all these things, once they were ruled out, definitely, by the experience in the acid rain, then the experiences when I started again in adult onset changed to where they were very, very physical, even more. And, but it's disconcerting because out of 4 of them I had, 3 of them somebody else was present. And when they see these ship come up and they're suddenly missing 4 or 5 hours, that type of delusion is not shared, So out of those, and I went for years thinking, oh, I'm not like Travis Walton. I'm Mr. Conscious Experiencer. When the truth is, what I could remember was a fraction for missing almost 20 hours of missing time on 4 experiences. And what I could remember was very fragmented, and I was trying to convince myself that I still knew it all, and it was just because it was physical and I was there.
Can you explain what the acid rain bit is?
What the what is?
Acid rain.
Oh, when I was in the 6th grade, I woke up one night and I was on board this craft. And on this craft was, first of all, it's got a screen on it. Now, I don't say the ships I've been on don't have windows because they're organic. This is like a screen, and I can see over in a bypass that looks like all this snow-covered mountain pass, and there are 2 other ships that I can see in the screen, and they look like they're sucking clouds up into them and then emitting light coming out. And on the side of the deck plates of this craft is this insectoid, about my size when I was that age, about 4.5, 5 feet tall. And he had come to me in my daily life. I'd seen him. He come up and had played with me a few times. But, it says what these beings can do consciously through the optic nerves to you to not perceive them what they actually are. You know what I mean? He did not, when coming to me here on, you know, in my daily life, he didn't, a couple times he didn't, other people had seen him. He didn't say, oh, that's a giant insect. It wasn't like that. You know what I mean?
No.
But on this craft, he's in the uniform and without his ball hat and other
and he
things.
was showing his true self.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he's telling me that they were having problems with the acid rain. They're trying to reverse it because it was bad for our planet. And they'd already told me things about what I call the M&M effect, which is the microwaves and metals in our atmosphere are very dangerous. Why some of these beings will not come out of those craft. All right. And not just the way they get them trapped here, but it's very dangerous. I think that goes for a lot of the humanoids too that aren't used to breathing the stuff here that we have.
Yeah.
So anyway, that and this acid rain, I didn't know what that was, Andy. All right. And then days like about a week later on a Friday, my teacher used to have us read this thing called Scholastic News. And I read this thing, and she made somebody get up there and read the main article. Traumatizing for a child, but I got,
definitely.
You better pronounce good or people talk about you, you know. But I got up there speaking about, I'll never forget it. This one was about the Statue of Liberty was on the front. And the article I had to read was the Statue of Liberty was shut down. Certain parts of it couldn't be toured because it was being reconstructed and repainted from damage from acid rain. And I'd never heard that before. I mean, except for with them. So I knew this is again where this is something that happened to me at night, crossed over into my day life. No way around it. That's why I knew for sure it was real. You know,
so
but
you joined the dots at that point.
Yeah. So that's the acid rain experience. It's one of those ones that's just, you know, where they say, what point is it where it really affected your normal life? It was that point for me.
That was the point.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I know I'm not just making this up now. No way out of it. You know?
No. Yeah.
You know, anyway, but it's hard to be sure.
Yeah. So Ancient Ruby just put a question in now. Has your abduction I can't speak now. Has your abduction stopped now?
Me? I was never abducted. My experiences weren't like that. They weren't negative. That abduction has a negative connotation to it. For me, they felt like field trips. But as far as what she's asking, they changed. You know, I was in my 30s. I stopped having these physical experiences as much as now they give me this information. I wouldn't even call it a download as much as they open up information line and it's like direct, and that's what it is. And sadly, they do it when they do it. I can ask a question and throw it out there, and I may not get a response for some time. You know what I mean? It just works that way. Sadly, on their time.
Did he ever tell you why you was chosen?
Well, I know that it has to do a lot with past life memories, us not remembering who we are as immortal souls, which I mean, not just how many times we've incarnated here on Earth, but how many times and places we've incarnated on our soul line throughout the universe.
Yeah.
That's important. That's important for this place right now. It will save Earth, those people that can remember and are not devoid of soul life memories. So soul life memories is one of them. Remembering who you are. Number two is I've been exposed to technology and seeing technology that is something I've known before, but also it can help this place. And I'm not the only one. You've got people that can take it way further than me, you know, but I think that that's what's happening right now for us to start having a way to save the planet too. You know, I've asked what's going to happen in the future, and they'll answer the question before I could even finish formulating it. And in fact, that insectoid, Xander would have been the one and saying, this won't happen again. And they're showing me the past, and I'm seeing Earth looking like a burned out ash circulating in a weird orbit around the sun. That's what I was showing. They said this won't happen again. So that means that's happened before here.
Yeah, I was going to say.
This is a lot older planet than
at least once before then.
Yeah. So, you know, that's going further back than anything we're reading in the media or biblically anything. There was a cycle all the way before where you had beings that were 25 feet tall coming from here from the Triangulum galaxy. When this place, you know, maybe even before Homo sapien, they started doing us here. Very interesting. You know, this needs to be really examined more than what it is. And so much of what we're told historically is just, excuse my language, BS.
Well, yeah. So do you think there's been more than one Earth, like physical globe? You do?
I'm sorry. I feel like there's?
Do you think that there's been more than one Earth, or is it the same Earth each time?
You mean like how people say there are two Earths and they're combining that type of a thing?
No, like physical. So say like you've got Earth and Mars and Neptune and Jupiter, like all the different planets. Do you think the planet that we're on now, there's been another planet Earth previous to this one?
Yeah, I think
is it the same one?
I don't think it's the same one. I think it was Mars. I think Mars was the first inhabited planet in this solar system, and then it got decimated and things started getting terraformed here. That's what I believe. Yeah. And also, I think that I personally am of the belief that several of the moons and planets in this solar system are populated on one density or another. There's a book by David Childress, and the guy on Ancient Alien that kind of talks like, that guy.
Yeah. I recognize the name. Now I know what you mean.
With the glasses. He wrote a book in the 90s called Extraterrestrial Archaeology. And he was examining a lot of things from like the Pioneer probes and also the Voyager probes that were on these moons that he thought were ancient civilizations eroded. And it was pretty interesting, so that's just one more thing that shows us that, but nothing we're being told is correct. So I would say Mars would be my first answer to you. And I think also maybe, looking at places like Europa and some of these moons circulating Saturn and Jupiter might be more than what they appear also. What is it? I don't want to say the name word. Euclides around Saturn that's got the thermal vents coming out of it. Very interesting. When you start thinking about that, what Norman Bergen was saying about these large craft that was in the rings, mining or creating the rings of Saturn. Very interesting. Yeah.
Because isn't some of the rings around Saturn, aren't they made up of pure diamonds or something?
Oh, I don't know. You got me on that.
Like that's what
I've heard. That these.
Well, let's go. I'm just kidding.
Trillions of that just float going around. There's all these rings are made up of different minerals and gases and chemicals and everything. And apparently, one of them is just full of diamonds.
Wow. That's cool. That's the first time I've heard that. Maybe I should remember it.
It's a few years ago. I can't remember what I heard it on. It was some news topic. So whether it's true or not, I don't know. But
that's cool.
Yeah. Well, you put that on your
I'll put it on my list. I've written down a couple today already. Yeah, on my remote viewing list.
That's cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Right. So, there's another one here for Jessica from Ancient Ruby. Do you ever notice a ground move like wind around portals?
There was no. In the video that my team has of that one cube that we encountered out there, there's nothing. There's no wind moving or anything like that. It was completely blind to the naked eye. There was nothing there. Yeah, you could only see it with the temperature change through the FLIR. So yeah, that was it. So nothing, no flare to it. No.
Thank you. Another one for you is from Blue Shift, and he would like to know: can Jessica control a person's heart rate when she's remote viewing them?
Oh my gosh, you're trying to get me in trouble, aren't you? That's what that is. I know. I can't say if I can do that or not. I can tell you that I can do a deep mind probe on people, and get in their head and communicate with them. So you can do a lot of weird stuff when you're remote viewing. So I can honestly say I've never tried to do that before, but I've done lots of deep mind probes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've done that. But because a lot of times when I'm remote viewing, I don't know what I'm remote viewing, and when because I do coordinate remote viewing, which I think someone in the chat had asked that question. What mode do I use? And I use several different modes. I'm trained in several different modes of remote viewing. The one I use most is coordinate remote viewing, where I am given a set of numbers, usually 8 numbers.
Yes.
And Barry, I taught Barry how to task me with those numbers and those targets. So he gives me a lot of those targets, and so I don't even know what they are. I don't know what the target is until I start working it, and when I detect an individual, a person, a human, or even a cryptid, whatever I'm looking at, when I detect a being that has some kind of intelligence, I can kind of get in their head and talk to them a little bit. I've helped find like missing people, cult cases, people who've been murdered, homicides, things like that. And so I'm able to ask them what happened when I detect that because I don't even know if these people are alive or dead a lot of times. And so I'm just talking to a person, and they're telling me where they are and what happened to them and all that kind of stuff. So I'm able to do a lot of interesting things remote viewing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah. I'm going to ask one question. It might be a little bit controversial. It's entirely up to you if you answer it. Have you ever remote viewed Jesus?
Boy, that's interesting.
I have not, but that was always something that, like when I was learning remote viewing, the person who taught me remote viewing was like, well, you could even go back, like when he was explaining to us what remote viewing is, because listen, I didn't go looking for remote viewing. I didn't even know what it was. That the head of my Bigfoot research team thought it would be best to train us all in remote viewing. And so he's an excellent remote viewer. And so he was telling us about remote viewing, and that was one of the examples. He was like, you could even go back and see Jesus in his time and see the crucifixion of Christ and all this kind of like it's just one of those things. I've never remote viewed that though. That's one thing that I have not remote viewed. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I was thinking about this the other week. One of the guests that was on, and it just popped into my head, and I thought, I need to ask you that question, whether you answer it or not. That was another question on its own, but
I
was just fascinated by just the question itself.
That's a good question. Ed Dames remote viewed Satan and Lucifer. And I found that very interesting because you've got people like Dolores Cannon and that whole camp saying that there is no Satan and there is no Lucifer. That's just made up from Roman constructs. But there's definitely negativity and saying that there's no such thing as evil. There's just disharmony. Are you kidding me? There is evil and negativity in this world throughout the galaxy. Something that Jessica discovered on one of those targets I gave her, the TRAPPIST-1, she started seeing slave trade there. Slave trade that goes so in conjunction, the stuff that Tony Rodriguez was telling me privately, but he's announced to everyone that has happened to him, stuff. I've not had those type of experiences. All right. So I don't know. And it's not for me to question other people's experiences, but I do find it very interesting, and it's worth trying to figure out what's going on, put all this together as a tapestry. So, so to say there's not evil, there's definitely something out there. Whatever these demonic entities names they're billions of years old. Who cares? I don't care what their names are. I'm not even interested in that. But these are creatures that exist, and they're more than just the shadows we see roaming around here that are trying to suck our awareness and our light. They're entities that come from that darkness. They're born in it. Something's totally else going on there. I want no parts of it, yo.
No. Well, no. I'm going to ask another question about remote viewing. Have you ever thought about remote viewing the Hat Man?
The Hat Man?
Yes.
I have never even heard of the Hat Man until this past year, because my friend Jesus Payan Jr. had experienced the Hat Man firsthand. No, I have not. That has not been a target that has been tasked to me.
Right.
But it'd be a good one, though. Yeah. If anybody had an incident with that. See, what I like to do is not just remote view like the idea of this thing, like I like to remote view incidents where people claim to have encountered this. That's the gist of like the meat and potatoes of remote viewing. Right, I
suppose that's more of a solid location then, where something's already happened, rather than trying to track.
Yeah. Yes. Like an actual event.
Yeah. So you know exactly where you're going with it.
Yes.
No, because we had is Heidi Hollis. She was on a few weeks ago, and she was saying she gave the term the Hat Man, and apparently he's a devil, is what she said.
Wow.
Who said that?
Interesting.
Heidi Hollis.
Yeah, I'll communicate with her a few times.
Yeah.
First heard her on Art Bell.
And she's saying she used to work on there with him, and I'd heard of the Hat Man, like shadow people and all that kind of stuff, like the grinning man and as well, but I never knew that the Hat Man was put as a name, that he was the devil. I just thought it was some evil entity. Sorry?
I saw him once. You know, he didn't do anything to me, but it definitely let me see his presence. I was much younger, but I saw him. Yeah. And, you know, it was not anything I want to get close to. And regardless, it's got to be somehow orchestrating dark energies down here in the 3D. So,
yeah. Was you late at night sleeping or early hours of the morning when you seen him?
No, I was standing outside of my house. And it was late at night, probably about 1 o'clock in the morning or later.
Yeah.
And he was walking in between the parking lights into my street. And there was an individual with a very long coat on and a very tall with a black hat. And they wanted me to see them. Did nothing to me, but they wanted me to see them. And just the vibe you get and the negative thoughts, the emotions it stirs up is enough for those inorganic beings to start feeding almost immediately.
Yeah, you know? No, because I know a lot of the encounters that people have, they see him, they lay in bed and the door's open, or they're getting up to use the bathroom and they see him in the doorway or in the corner of the bedroom. It's always in the doorway or the corner of a room. Well, not always, but most of the time. But just with you saying that you'd seen him outside, that's the first time I've heard anyone saying that he was out and he's strolling about in the streets.
You know, well, I heard Heidi saying that not long ago that the Hat Man was following her when her and her friend were walking like outside somewhere, and he was popping up. Yeah, pretty sure it's positive.
Yes.
Said that. Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I got an interesting picture of this family. It's an African American family outside of their house, taking a picture after a funeral, and the Hat Man standing right behind them. It's a really interesting pic, you know. So I don't think the location matters as much as what they're doing.
Well, yeah, because I think she was saying that she was asking to see the Hat Man, and then he turned up, and then she was saying, "Don't ever ask to see him because you will regret it."
Is that like Candyman? Don't say Candyman 5 times.
Yeah.
Terrible movie.
Yeah. Just don't do it. I'll say it 4 and then, coward out.
Oh, man.
Yeah. No. So,
you know, somebody just asked the question, what is... Maybe Hat Man is the ghost of Jack the Ripper.
Oh,
that's interesting. What makes them say that? I wonder.
Where's it going?
That's a very interesting thing to say.
Oh, so I keep putting the wrong finger up. The chat's going too quick. Yeah. Gone for a mile before I got to it. Yeah, so Shay Vikings put maybe the Hat Man is a ghost of Jack the Ripper. Then Joe's put it maybe is a Grim Reaper.
You know, I thought about that too. I just did a video. Actually, it's a while ago, but I'll release it with my Sasquatch videos I'm putting out.
Yeah.
How often people have had in the contact experience have seen these praying mantis. I believe Jessica is part of that group. Seeing the praying mantis, but you know how often some of them are seen in these cloaks. And when you start seeing them like that with these cloaks, they have a great resemble to the Grim Reaper, I think.
Yeah.
Just food for thought again. I don't know, but it's food for thought. But the Hat Man fits that description too. I would agree.
Maybe it's all the same thing, but we're just perceiving it differently.
I would agree with that. That's the problem with this, Andy. These aren't the separate classifications we want them to be. You know, like.
Yeah.
I'm still dealing with that,
man. It's just trying to get your head around all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And the more, sorry, I was just saying, the more you think you've got somewhere, someone will throw another 20 boxes at you and go, there you go through that.
Well, you know, when I was a kid, I used to see ghosts, and I'd wake up at night and there'd be ghosts around my bed when I was I guess I was more of a young adult. And there would be people standing around my bed talking to me, and their mouths would not be moving. Okay. And they were speaking telepathically to me. Well, as I got to be older, I started having ETs in my bedroom at night, and they would be doing the same thing those ghosts were doing when I was younger. And so, and one of them included the Grim Reaper standing by my bed one night. It was something, I thought it was a very gigantic Grim Reaper. Something that had on a cloaked hood, just a long cloak, just like the Grim Reaper, but it had the hands like a praying mantis. I could see its kind of its hands.
Right.
And I couldn't see its face very well. But it made me question, well, were all of those ghosts that I saw as a young adult, were those actually ETs? But I didn't know to even consider them to be ETs, so I was seeing ghosts in my mind.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
It's similar to when I was growing up, when I'd seen that thing on the wall. I'd get in bed, I'd pull the covers over my head, and even though I didn't look up from under the covers, I knew my bed was up against the wall, so there's only like one side and the bottom of the bed that was exposed. And even though I didn't look from under the covers, I knew that there was figures stood around the bed. And to me, it was Dracula, Frankenstein, a zombie, a werewolf, because these were the sort of movies that I used to watch, even as a little kid.
Was it Bela Lugosi, Andy? Was it Bela Lugosi? Just kidding. Was it Bela Lugosi? He was my favorite Dracula.
Right. It probably was, because it was like mid-70s, mid to late 70s. So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I used to watch. Do you ever watch Hammer House of Horror? It was done in the 80s. It's filmed in the UK. It was a series that was on every week, a bit like Tales of the Unexpected.
Wow. No. I didn't see that one.
Well, Hammer House of Horror is mainly Dracula. Mm-hmm. And like the vampire movies, but laying in the bed, I knew that these figures were stood there. I could go in and feel the energy. It was that, but I knew as soon as I looked from under them covers, something was going to happen. So that's why I just stay under the covers till I fell asleep, then woke up in the morning and it was all good. But that I'd say every night for quite a few years that happened.
Wow, that's a lot. That is a lot. You know, and the thing is, like for me, I didn't have quite what you two had, but I did get attacked by a disincarnate person when I was 7 years old in my uncle's house he was renting out, and it was horrible. You know, we went down in the basement, and first of all, these washing machines so old they had to been like Maytags first, and down there I started not feeling good, and then I got this bear hug. And my telepathy went off. I got bear hugged and told to get out. Not welcome, get out. And, you know, now that I'm older, I know that this individual, I was like a bright light because I could see. I was not know that was what I was doing. But it's like you're like a bright light, and then they'll try to join with me. It couldn't join with me. So the next thing is to attack me. And they will attack you to discourage you as a child from using your gifts. Scare you into trauma. You won't use those gifts anymore. That happened to me, and you know, since I've come forward with this, I spoke to numerous of people that were attacked as a child. I think that was happening to you, Jessica. You know, they know you can see it, and they're all on you. Like for example, I cross over earthbound spirits in my hypnosis, and they're attached to people. Some people have as much as 12 or more attached to them. You know, but I had one specifically I was trying to bring to this location to cross over. As somebody that I had known before they passed. I know they didn't cross. And when I got them there, I did get them there from the other side. But the problem is I was in a complex downtown where I live near a river. and there's been a lot of bloodshed down there. It's very old. And in this complex, all sorts of earthbounds came in. The room filled up with some of them wanting to know what's going on, some of them wanting to be crossed, some of them just watching. And the individual that I was trying to cross over that I brought there just did what a lot of us do, went and stood in the back of the crowd and just let me deal with that. And I crossed a few and I wound up saying, no more. Y'all have to leave.
Yeah.
You know, it gets that serious when dealing how many earthbound spirits are actually walking this plane. It's more numerous than the living, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I know. It's yeah. Yeah.
But I think I believe that if I'd have come from under them covers, then I won't say I'd have been attacked, but it felt negative. It wasn't a good feeling, put it that way. So I was staying under.
And you got those incubus and succubus entities that come during nighttime, during dream cycle too. And although they may be different, who knows what kind of psychic projections they could put on you just before they attack. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. No, thank you for that. We have got some more questions for you. So
they're all for you, Jessica. I get to sit back.
I know there's a couple. Right, there's two for you, Barry. No, I'll do two for Barry. Right, so these are both from Ancient Ruby. Right, has Barry ever had a jelly-type fluid on him?
Wow, interesting question. As in ectoplasm?
Is that food for thought?
Yeah. As in,
I hope they're talking ectoplasm. I'm just saying.
I'm assuming they're talking about ectoplasm. Yeah. No, I have not. But I can say I've encountered a type of plasma being that almost looked jelly-like. And when I say that, there's been on board a craft that had, in fact, it's a morphing organic UFO. But this craft had, I've illustrations of this on my YouTube channel that I had done by Kasara. But on board this craft has these eggs in each room. And these eggs look like they're almost like they're glass on the outside, surrounding the back with metal. Okay. And inside there's like a deep mist inside. And in the mist is floating these different things like a plasma ball that looks almost like a golden Saturn type of shape, condensed light, different shapes floating around in there. And some of them did look like almost plasma jelly-like in a way. I would assume they might come from fluidic space. Heck, I don't know. But nonetheless, there were life forms. So the first one I see this, I would think, well, that must be power sources. These eggs, they must be power sources. They weren't. What that is actually a cohesive portal to whatever environment those beings come from. And that egg is maintaining that on board the craft. Because whatever they're doing to make it to where there's a part that I could exist physically there, sick or not, hold my stomach or not, okay? They could still meet me halfway, but that was physical enough that whatever it is, the beings inside the eggs didn't want to come outside of that state in their environment there, until I about passed out and two of them came out and helped me, but different story there. So just food for thought.
Question for you. Do you think you've been cloned? Not now, not you now, but there's another version of you. Have you been taken on the craft in a different universe, a different time somewhere?
I've not been asked that. And what's odd, I've talked about this a few times and most people don't catch it. I encountered someone when I was a child, 7 years old, that was quote unquote a doppelganger that appeared to be the age that I would grow to be when I was 22. Okay. I encountered this individual. And that got me into realizing really what the resurrection type of technology is that comes with the quasi-crystal technology on board some of these craft. So, for example, they can take a woman and actually, when the child is still a zygote, actually split it as a zygote. That's what happened to me. So there is another cat that looks identical to me that's been on board some of these craft. People have encountered him before. All right. And when I was actually growing up, I had a couple of psychics that I interacted with. One of them, she had met him before she met me. I had to deal with this because this individual left several obvious clues in my life that this was going on, to a point of where it gave me an absolute obsession with time technology and time travel, but especially time technology, real-time technology. Again, on my YouTube channel, go to the playlist. There's a whole playlist there about time technology. Bunch of stuff on there. Check it out.
Nope. Cheers for that.
So great question. Thank you. I don't talk about that a lot, but yes.
I just thought, with you saying about the eggs and that, could it be some sort of DNA reconstruction?
Yeah. And that goes, well, in this way, like I said, it was splitting as a zygote,
Yeah.
And like I don't talk that I've had like a type of a star child too, but I mean, it's human. There was somebody else with me during these encounters, and I think this child was missing fetus syndrome during one of these experiences. Okay.
Right.
At a very early age, and then she was split like I was. And in return, the experiences when I discover of her existence 20 years later, okay, she's telling me after my accident, me and my kids were concerned about you. Kids, at that point, she'd been 18 years old. How could she have kids? Well, the same process I went through, she went through, but multiple times, therefore resulting in some children that are not even corporeal. And I start realizing later, some of these configurations inside one of these eggs, are those my grandchildren? See, we don't know. This stuff gets real heavy, real heavy. Yeah. And I don't say much because it's not the same cool hybrid stories I hear from everybody else. It's not the same. All right. So I don't talk about it and the process and everything, and it would expose somebody else. So I keep my mouth shut to a degree. Anyway, great question.
No, thank you for the answer.
Cool audience you have.
Yeah.
Very aware.
Oh yeah, definitely. Next question is from Nickname, and it's for Jessica. It might be for both of you. Where have they remote viewed in the UK, and where, if not already, would you choose?
I mean, I've remote viewed the orbs that make the crop circles.
Yes.
That's the only thing I can think of that I've remote viewed out there so far. So, I mean, well, there's other targets that I do with my team that I'll never know what they were. So I don't know, but I can tell you what I've done for my shows, and the only thing I can think of would be the orbs over the crop circles so far.
No, thank you. Have you heard of Cannock Chase? In it's in Litchfield.
Cannock Chase. Yeah, somebody put that in the chat. I actually wrote that down.
Don't
tell me what it is. I guess I don't know.
No, so
it could be a blind target in the mix.
Have you remote viewed Cannock Chase? If not, will you in the future?
I can. I will. I'll put that on the list.
Right. Yeah. I won't.
Hey, can I ask what is that? What's Cannock Chase?
So it's a place. It's a what do you call it? Natural place of a natural interest of original beauty, something. So it's NIOB. That's what it says on like Google Maps or whatever. So it's a big country area. There used to be there's a couple of military bases on there, and there's a German cemetery from the First and Second World War. I've been to it and did a live stream from there, but there's been sightings of different things. But I don't want to ruin it for Jessica, because if she wants to remote view it, I don't want to say what's there and what's been there. But anything and everything, that's all I'm going to say. If you can think of it, it's probably been experienced in the area.
There's two things I think that are very interesting there. One of them we had talked about before we came on air, which is the Manchester Canal deaths.
Yes,
I found that one very interesting. The different circumstances under some of them. Yes. That's fascinating to me. And there's another one, but when you mentioned that some of the shoes being found with feet in them and things, I was started getting influxed with, there's a place. I don't know if it's in England or not, but there's this place where all these shoes wash into this bay. I mean, there are like hundreds of them. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is that near you or anything?
No.
And I first saw Jeremy Wade, the river monster guy, does the fishing. He was at this place, and they're showing all these shoes. Some of them have feet in them, some of them don't. Some of them are like 100 years old. You know, it's really interesting.
I know, just with you saying that, I've just remembered something. But I know some of them, they have put it down to like shipwrecks and plane crashes coming down into the sea. That they have confirmed some of them.
Some of them,
but not all of them.
Like there's like too many
that
though.
Would
like
make
it's a
sense.
little uncanny.
Yeah, that obviously that'd make sense with a craft crashing into the sea or the ocean or whatever, and then eventually washing up onto bay or coast or whatever. But I don't think it would be for all of them.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, why do they all converge there? You know?
Yeah.
Weird world, strange world we live in.
There's no dodgy guy living there that collects shoes, is there?
Well, that tying into David Pauletti's Missing 411 Water Deaths. And when you read that book, it's very odd. When they started doing autopsies on some of the bodies later on, they found huge amounts of GHB in them, like 20 or 25 the amount you would get at a club if somebody was drug dating you or drug date or sorry, date drugging.
I know.
Yeah, but I mean like 20 or 25 times than that. Now we're in the middle of a national forest where you're walking with other people around you, you just suddenly disappear, and then you get all this GHB put in your body. And so when they're placed in the water, they might have still been alive, but they drowned because they couldn't swim. They couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
That's very odd to me. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's out of place.
Totally.
Completely out of place. Yeah, things like that I can't get my head around. There's no reasoning behind it. There's no logical reasoning behind it, I should say.
No, and some of these missing 411. I noticed that, if you caught it too, Jessica, on that 411 UFO connection, they're dealing with the fact a lot of these quote unquote abductees are just dropped. Sometimes we get these things, the stasis beams that levitate us into the craft. That's all cool and technological. But then you got beings that don't give a damn about people, and they just drop them from whatever altitude, and they're that. Same thing happens to cows sometimes in cattle mutilations.
Yeah, because you have all like literally every bone in the body's broken, all the organs are splattered inside, basically. So,
in my home state, there was a picture of this horse whose head was down in the ground, so it's about that far down.
Yeah.
And they said the only way it could have happened is that it actually, something about the head gnawed itself down in the ground like that when it was being placed down. So what kind of beings is it that are actually flaunting the ability to do that, man? That's horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible. Not right, is it?
No, it's horrible. And you start going back to some of the earlier regressions that, Leo Sprinkle did. And he had a couple, there's a woman and a guy that said they saw one of these things going up, and then they saw inside the craft and saw this thing being dissected, and things that would be similar to a ultrasonic scalpel, I think is what they call them now. Yeah. Sorry, anyway, I'm going left. I digress, my friend.
No, it's fine. Right, got a few more questions just before we finish. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Right.
You cool, Jessica?
Yes, I do. I do have a kid that's making a lot of noise downstairs. I need to go check on soon.
I'll be as quick as I can. So
I can't be here too much longer. But yes, thank you.
Do you do quick fire questions then? Yeah. This one's from Nickname. Sure. Where are the permanent portals? Do you know?
Stargates, I would assume. I mean, I don't know if those are permanent or not, but Barry, what would you say about that? Because I think there are natural portals, such as like Stargates. I think a lot of people do know about them. I think I've heard that even, let's say, the Hiltons, for instance, put their hotels over where some of these Stargates are and have jump rooms in their hotel rooms and things like that. So, I don't know. Why don't you follow the map to where all the Hilton hotels are? I bet you can find some.
There's a few near me, so
it's just a rumor. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've heard it discussed quite a bit.
I think you've got some that are on grid points and ones that are just always there, like the Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Triangle, that whole triangle that they pointed out. They have this anomalous things happen. The Bermuda Triangle is one of them, Devil Triangle. I think those might be the ones that are more permanent and more stable that are on these ley lines.
Yeah. No, thank you. Next one is from Jojo. Why do you think most Bigfoot sightings seem to be of lone males?
I'm not sure that they are of lone males. I think even Patty was a female. I think that there's a mix. Yeah. I think that the juveniles a lot of times get seen more by people that are researching them, like myself. I think we have more encounters with the younger versions of them. Because they don't have those inhibitions, I guess. Like they don't know better. Either they're being initiated or something. I'm not sure what the deal is.
Male curious as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's a mix. Yeah. It's not just the men. I think it's male and female. But that's just me. I'm no expert, but I am a field researcher.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Thank you.
I'll tell you, I would rather run into a female, considering the females seem to be a little more kind to people than the males. Yeah.
Until they throw you over the shoulder and you're never seen again. Next question is for Barry, Ancient Ruby. Have you ever been stalked by a black dog or had one?
Wow, great question. Man, what a cool crowd. Okay, I have experienced something that I considered I don't know what it was, if it was a skinwalker or what. I was on a bridge. In fact, it was just a few years ago. I was on a bridge where I live, and it's 3:00 in the morning. Out of the city hadn't cut the grass. It's rather high. And out of this grass comes this dog. And this dog was large. And to me, it looked like, I never get the name right. Is it Axel, the Mexican hairless dogs? It looked like that, but it was the size of like a Great Dane, okay? It goes on the side of the bridge in front of me, could then come on the bridge, but it stops on the path and looks at me. And its eyes were self-illuminating, like a yellow. There was nowhere it could have been shining off of. You know what I mean? That it went on. And again, I was sat there, it kind of stopped my world. And I was like, did I just experience some type of a shapeshifter? And I'd seen something similar to that running through the neighborhood one other time, but it was not nearly as close as what this was. So that is close as I could come to answering that question. But, some things happen that just stop your world in a paranormal type of way, spiritual way. That's what this was and what it did to me. And only thing I can correlate it with is a skinwalker of some type or shapeshifter of some type. And it looked like an extremely large Mexican hairless dog because it was not mange. It looked like it was almost expensive, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No,
great question. Thank you. Wow.
No, thank you. Right. The last question is for Jessica. Have you ever friended an ET or ghost? And this is from Ancient Ruby again.
Hey, no, I have not. No. I have not. I've kept my distance as much as I can from them. Well, I mean, I've seen ghosts that were my family members, so I guess you can say, I guess in that case, or it was what it appeared to be as my family members. I don't know for sure if they actually were now. So, but no, I've never, not even as a kid. And I'll tell you that when you're training in remote viewing and you're learning remote viewing, we're taught to don't ever associate with lower vibrational entities or anything that could kind of take you off your path there. So I even today especially, I don't associate or try to interact with ghosts at all if I see them, unless I'm remote viewing it and I'm trying to get some information or something like that. I've had plenty of attachments over the years when I was younger and things, and that's just not something that I want to attract. So, and I certainly don't want to attract ETs if I don't have to. So,
no, don't
never.
blame you.
No, I've not been friends with any.
Right. No, thank you. Don't want to scare Barry or anything, but a couple of people in the chat have said that they've seen a black dog next to you, Barry.
A black dog next to me?
In the chat now, on camera. So
interesting.
2 or 3 people have said they've seen a big black dog near, behind her at the side of you.
Sure, it's not that I was talking about one and it put it in your mind and it's auto suggestion. Because we actually had a storm just pull up and it got dark in this room, so the light fell.
Yeah, I did notice it went really dark.
It's Anubis, Mary. It's gotta be.
Somebody said it's following you. I got news. I don't mean to sound like a jerk, but I've had cryptids following me my whole life, and I stay very, very protected. Once you wake up not in your bed on board a craft or something, nothing's ever the same. And I mean, for me, that is, although I did not have negative encounters, abductions, the amount of stress that puts on you, and the inability to just kind of blend in with everybody else. You know, you're taking college courses. I'm looking at the professor thinking, he could be part gray alien. He's kind of pale, you know, stuff like that going in your mind. It's like, you know, you're supposed to be thinking about your project, man.
But apparently it was before the question was asked.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I'll watch it back and if there is, I'll let you know and give you the time frame on it.
Oh, no, just kidding. There it is. David McNaughton, the Dr. Pepper guy, American Werewolf in London. I'll pass. For that reason alone, for that movie, I would never go walking on the English moors. No way.
I've started collecting plates of movie plates, and I've got an American Werewolf in London, and I've got this metal plate for the Slaughtered Lamb pub. Your weights.
Yeah.
So you can buy them on eBay. They're only a couple of quid, a couple of dollars.
That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I've just got a few around the wall, so
that's cool.
That's my new thing. But no, that's been absolutely amazing as always. Love having you both on. It's been great. Great for you to come back again, Jess.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
And hopefully Barry will come back on as well soon. Again,
it's been an honor. I've enjoyed both of you. Nice audience. Nobody butchered me or anything, so thank you. It's not that I saw. So.
Yeah,
it's always a plus.
Yeah, wait till next time. No, they are good. They're all good people. So, no, it's been. Like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure and fascinating, and it's just completely opened my mind up to other aspects of the paranormal. Just completely changed my thought process of what's going on and what everything is. So, no, absolutely loved it. So thank you again. I'll let you go because I know, Jess, you've got to go and see to your son.
He's crashing around downstairs. That's all. I just keep hearing a bunch of crashing, and I'm thinking, man, I need to go check on him. So thank you.
Right. No. So I'll let you both go. I'll keep in touch with you both anyway.
Please do. Yeah.
Hey, thank you. I've been honored. I've been honored to be here.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, we've got Rob's coming on in 2 weeks. So
Rob's my buddy.
And I know you both have worked with Rob. So
we do. Yes. I used to have a show over at Texas Front Porch where he has a show too. Yes. So we've had a lot of fun together. Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully in the future we can bring you all on together and see how that goes. If
that
you're
would
up
be
for
fun. Yes.
So
for sure.
Right.
Anytime.
Right. Well, have a wonderful weekend, guys. Everyone in the chat. Next Friday, there's nothing next Wednesday. Next Friday, we've got Alfred Santariga is coming on.
I know Al too. That's my buddy.
Ah, right. Okay. Yeah. So he's coming on then. Then I've got Gary Heseltine, who was the police officer at Rendlesham the following Wednesday. And then Rob's coming on the Friday after that. So
it's great lineup.
Yeah, it's just if you're trying to I have to keep popping my calendar up to try and remember who's on. And
oh my gosh, I've been booking my guests the same day of my shows lately. I'm terrible. You're doing a great job, Andy.
I'm having help doing it because it's just
that's good.
It's getting out of hand now, and I can't keep up. So, but I'm getting there. So, right, I shall let you guys go. Thanks again. And as I said, hopefully you'll be back on soon, but I'll be in touch and we'll sort something out. So,
sounds good. All right,
really
thank
appreciate
you for having
it.
us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.
Great weekend and speak to you guys soon. And good night, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.